Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the first episode of A to Y in 6 months. I know it's been a while. I've been doing a lot in my life. I was coaching middle school football again. I've been working, and I am now officially done with my time as an Ivy Tech student. Really happy to be able to say that. Finished it. Now it's just a matter of working full time before I go and start my next chapter at Indiana Wesleyan next fall. But enough about that. Let's try to make sure that this episode A to Y is a good relaunch for the brand. I am joined by the original co-host of the show, Caleb Ream himself. Caleb, how are you doing?
Are you Addison?
I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. And we are also joined by Asher Lou running the cameras for us today. A little delayed in
Hello.
it, but we got
Hello.
Ash running the camera, so I don't have to sit and awkwardly behind my laptop be pushing buttons. And you guys can see all my nerd stickers on the back of my laptop. Those are all hidden for today. The next few episodes they won't be, but for today they are hidden. I'm really glad to be joined by my friends making this episode. As you can see, we're both repping our 30-year anniversary Brazil t-shirts. This is the first episode since our vlogs of Brazil, and the vlogs actually only covered one, or I think the third day in Brazil.
Yeah. Week and a half.
Yeah,
10
well,
days?
it's like
right?
with travel time, it covers most of it. We just missed the last 2 days, but we didn't. We did the last vlog after the 30-year celebration,
Right.
and I then recorded one by myself to edit and publish, but it didn't work. I was actually doing a philosophy class while we were in Brazil,
Huh.
so there are photos out there of me sitting in the lobby of the Carpintero Hotel
Mhm.
doing my homework. Actually, having to use your hotspot to
Yeah.
turn it in because the
Yeah.
Wi-Fi crapped out. All kinds of stuff, but I'm really happy to be joining us. And Ash today is going to be the one guiding us with questions about our experience in Brazil.
Yeah. So I honestly didn't hear too much about the trip, so I do have a few questions. So what kind of even led to you guys wanting to go to Brazil in the first place?
So what led to me wanting to go to Brazil in the first place was a multitude of things. It's kind of a little bit of a Wright family tradition. The Wrights being my mom's side of the family. Obviously, my grandfather Gary Wright is the founder of World Renewal, and due to health reasons, he wasn't able to go to this year. And my grandmother was going, so I kind of went with her in his stead in a way. I was just making sure she got there back and safely with the travels and just making sure all her luggage got through. So that was reason number one. Reason number two is the 30-year celebration of World Renewal being in Brazil, and that was a really special occasion. And I'd always been wanting to go to Brazil. There had been chatter of me going for the last few years, so I was really excited about the potential of going. And then I was really fortunate to get great fundraising and being able to go. And I had a great time. I was able to run an American flag football camp, which I'm now super excited about because now there'll be NFL games in Sao Paulo in 2025. So I can take a little bit of credit bringing American football to Brazil before even the NFL did.
So my story kind of goes back a little bit. I was set up, I think, in the year 2016 to go to Haiti before their government kind of fell. And that all had started to begin when we were getting ready to leave. Like, literally 3 weeks before we were getting ready to leave. And it's also kind of a rite of passage. My dad went to high school, did some mission stuff there. All of his sisters did. My aunt was a missionary to China, and some of those places, snuff Bibles that talked about, if you got caught, that was it. A place where you can't openly preach the word and stuff like that. And so I'd been looking at going on a mission trip at this time, but nothing had really come up. Our church had gone to the Dominican Republic, but with college and other circumstances, that wasn't really a clear God-given opportunity. He had not really opened that up for me. Addison on Lexington, maybe a little bit before Lexington last year, asked me about this opportunity of possibly going to Brazil with him and his grandmother. And at the time, we didn't really know, or at least I didn't. So the plans weren't really set in stone until a few weeks before, but it was just kind of like, here's an opportunity. Just got done with my technically senior year of college. Just was a good time to go. I felt led to go. There was really nothing that presented itself as a reason not to go. I'd been looking to do a mission trip for so long, and it was kind of a God thing that everything just kind of fell into place. Funding, time. I'd just been starting a new job, but they didn't want me to start till after. I mean, it was so amazing to go. So just overall, the opportunity to get to further what Addison's grandfather has built, in with their relationship with Brazil and the world renewal, through the podcast way before, this time, you hear about the missionaries, down there, and, their mission field down there. It's pretty cool.
No, that's amazing how all of that kind of like fell into place for you guys. I mean, it's not good that your grandpa got sick, but like how all those events just came in at the same time and just interweave themselves in a way where both of you guys could go on that trip together. I think that's amazing.
It reminds me of something my dad told me when I was worried about getting funding to go. He just kind of looked at me squared one day and he's like, Addison, it's kind of how if you're supposed to go, God will make it happen. And we were both extremely fortunate that we were clearly supposed to go. And that was immediately answered when we got there. We were clearly supposed to go, and there was clearly objectives we were supposed to do there.
For sure. I actually asked what those objectives were, like kind of what God laid on your heart when you guys went there. I know you talked about football for a little bit, but I was wondering.
Yeah, well, I'll go first because I immediately have things that spring to mind. So I was told that there'd be interest in. I'll just do football because it's fun, and then I'll get into some deeper spiritual stuff later. So I was told by Rachel when Ferguson, the leader of the she was the representative. She is now the representative of Brazil, and she's the one who is in charge of running these trips. She's the organizer, leader of it, and she came up to me in February, I believe, saying, "Hey, there's some interest in you doing American football in Brazil." And when she told me that, she had no idea that I had already coached a year of middle school football. She just knew I had played. So she didn't even know that when I was in high school, not that I was so much of a good player, but my team was really successful and that I had then already coached a decent age group of middle schoolers. So I then began gathering details, and I'll be able to start slowing clips of it now. But the American flag football camp, I've been told, was a grand success. We taught about, I think the numbers were 45 to 80 kids, ages of elementary school to late high school, American flag football. On the last day, we were able to run a tournament. I was able to crown an MVP, give a football away to him. And that was a special moment for me to be able to do. And it was just so much fun to be able to go and do that. I was joined by Caleb. He was able to help coach a lot of that. I was joined by a great pastor who's a former coach, and Jason Gallman, who's now the head pastor at Greenwood Community Church. And Rachel herself did an amazing job translating. Christopher Moraes did a great job translating for me, along with Leo. So I had great translators. It was a great team to be able to pull it off. It was a pretty sizable feat. I mean, we took up 2 full-size soccer fields at ABBA camp. And I've been told it was a great success. I had pretty high standards to go in. I had visions of what I wanted to do, and those visions kind of didn't match up with reality. But I've been told it was a success. Do you have anything you want to say about the camp?
It was just amazing. I mean, to see how quick, our society here in the United States is known kind of all around the world, but they're not strangers to. But to see how quick they picked up a sport and could play a good game of backyard, holiday football, and kind of the love of being part of that, kind of our cult, the mixing of the culture, and kind of giving it their own kind of spin too. It was really
yeah. Amazing. There's so many amazing athletes. I'm really glad I didn't try to full on participate. I probably would have got my ankles shattered.
We tried to start playing a soccer game. We got our shoes on. We were going to go out and play.
My ankles started hurting.
No,
looking at it.
no. It was. We walked out and we realized that.
Uh, so the flag football thing, crazy fun. Really glad I did it. I've been told there's rumors of me wanting to do it, of them wanting another one, but I just won't know for sure until later on, and we'll see what happens with that. And then there were a lot of personal things that happened. That's kind of been life changing in some ways since I've been there. We did all kinds of stuff while we are there, from seeing the Living Stones ministries and Two Brothers, and seeing all the ways they engage and interact with their communities to try to grow the communities with Christ and to be able to expand His word. And that was really interesting to see how it's able to be done there. Kind of the different cultural aspects of that. How generally in America people are fairly hostile. Usually, everyone's heard about the idea of Christendom here in the U.S., and they have a very small, if not fairly broad, idea of what it is and what it pertains. In Brazil, there was kind of more of a natural curiosity. It was very interesting to see how when you would go to churches, they'd leave the doors open so that people could just walk in. So that when people on the street would hear, they just walk in, poke their heads in, and listen. I don't think that would happen here in the U.S. I don't. Even if you're an inner city church, I don't think if you just leave your doors open, you're going to get people curious and walking in. So that was a great thing to see. I had an amazing opportunity to be prayed over by the U.S. American and U.S. and Brazilian teams, and that's kind of been life changing in a few ways. It's made me rethink some of my career ideas and passions. We'll see what all the fallout of that is in the near future, but I'm I'm really thankful that I was able to go, and I think there were many clear reasons I was supposed to go.
Yeah, I mean, as I'm going to go back to having the aunt in the ministry field, what she said she did, shot children ministry around the world. I mean, she was speaking Bibles into China for children, and she said you would just fall in love with these children, like that you would just they would love you. They'd want to hear and experience. And I think that was personally my favorite, is getting to take the message of Christ to kids. I mean, it Christianity, the Catholicism part in Brazil is kind of old world Catholicism. So, the Jesus part that you hear here in Catholicism in the United States is not prevalent there. To kind of bring that message to kids who've never heard about Jesus but been around the faith their whole life, it's something totally different than, reaching people who've never heard of, or studied the faith, but bringing the faith to people who have heard but not the whole truth. And just like Addison said, praying over him with the teams was just, I mean, that was at Ab Camp, right?
Mhm.
And just the love for him, in his grandpa's place, them seeing him. I know I'm making this kind of about you, but it was really cool to see, somebody who's very close with their grandparents. It was really cool to see generations of the people who have done this, passing that torch to you, and just being there around that was
Yeah, something I'd like
really cool.
to note about that was that night was I was there. I'm a descendant of Gary Wright. We were also joined by Hubert Nolan, who is part of the original church that sponsored Telly going to Carpina after he was done with college here in the U.S. Hubert was there with his granddaughters, and then we had all kinds of uh, young Brazilians who are stepping up into roles. Leo, Curvin, all kinds of great guys who are stepping up into leadership roles. Who in reality are only 3 years older than us in some ways. So it was great to be able to be there, being part of those groups, and just kind of seeing this transition. So many times in mission organizations like this, where you fail is you are missing the next leaders. So it's so great to be able to look around and clearly see what's coming next on the depth chart, if you will, of the next group that's coming up to carry the torch and to continue to keep the ministry going.
Yeah, it was cool. That part of it was very, very neat.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing that there's so many people that are like stepping up into that role. I don't know how it is from their perspective, but I know if that was like me, I would be almost scared to step into that role. But no, that's amazing.
Yeah, it is interesting that you bring that up about kind of the the fear of stepping up. But it's just worth noting real quick that there are amazing leaders currently in Brazil with Jon Snow, Telly, Ana Paula Snow, all kinds of amazing people, Guga and Guga and Alyssa. I mean, I could just go on and on with different names of fantastic leaders who are there and setting the way for this next generation.
I guess the only other question that really comes to mind for me is what was your guys' favorite part about the trip and what really like stuck out to you the most out of everything you did there?
So we already kind of got mentioned when I was prayed over, and that was really touching and has made me rethink some career goals of mine. But one of my favorite parts, and this will be kind of funny because I'll be able to put it as an overlay, was when I can't remember who brought it. I think it was Rachel brought warheads,
Yeah.
and there's not a whole lot of sour candy in Brazil. I'm not sure why, but at the end of one of my football camps, we gave out a bunch of warheads, and watching their faces have them was one of the funniest parts of the entire trip. Because that's just, I mean, you think about it now. I mean, we got Sour Patch Kids and Sweet Tarts, all kinds of things. It's just not as prevalent there. I have a bag of Brazilian candy. It's coffee flavor. Right? It's fantastic candy, but there's just not that kind of sour candy. So watching their faces as they ate it was one of the best parts for me. Pure comedy.
I think there are pictures in the group chat that Rachel took.
Yeah, I took a video myself.
I think my favorite part, kind of go along with that, was just the outreach. Seeing and being part of something so much bigger than yourself, so much larger than yourself, and something that's on fire with the faith as much as that. Seeing where was it, the open air gym that we went to?
That's a either high school or college level gym in downtown Cartagena.
Just seeing kind of the people, like you said, people wondering and coming in and becoming kind of being drawn in off the street, and just kind of the curiosity for more that you see and experience there. In a place where we think we have all the answers, you don't see that a whole. But in a place like that, just the curiosity and the wanting to have that level of faith as part of your life, even if you don't. I mean that getting to go to the country church. I'm just gonna call it the country church.
Casual, or
This was one of my
the little
favorite,
yellow church.
yeah, the little yellow church. This was one of my favorite parts, was walking through. So we did kind of like a vacation Bible school for, I don't know, 3 days,
Oh, I can't remember.
a few days.
This was in the stretch of Brazil where Brazil was absolutely winning
Yeah.
against me.
But anyways, what you would do is to gather the children, because they don't. I mean, they can go places by themselves, but they don't have. They kind of have school buses. But what was something Rachel said? Like, some days you don't know if you're going to go to school because the school bus breaks down. The school's so far away. Stuff like that. So what we would do to gather the children for Bible school is we would walk down, this dirt road into this little country town. And Rachel was the leader of this little expedition every day. And, she would be calling the kids out of their homes. And, we just walked right down Main Street. Little kids would come out, and we'd gather them all and take them back to the church, and then starts our day. But I think that was probably kind of seeing, I don't know, being from the country, seeing that reception in that kind of setting like that. For me, gathering the children.
I think the biggest thing that stuck out just from hearing you guys talk is, again, and like from what you just said, it's just like the curiosity that these kids and these people have. Like the fact that you can just walk down the street and just like call out, and like the kids would just flock in because they're curious about it and they want to know. And I just think it's so powerful because in just our country and just the way that our culture works, like it's really just straightforward in the way that we think. And I don't know, it's just, I feel like from your perspective, it's just really refreshing to see that there's people out there who want to know more and have an open mind to things. I think that's really powerful.
Yeah, it really paints the division in how the church is seen. Because I mean, being able to go walk and knock door to door shows that the church isn't seen as hostile. If they're not coming for your kids, that I mean, we would have our leaders talk to the moms and be like, "Hey, we're just having a VBS. You know where the church is. We're just going to be having there for 1 to 2 hours." And it just shows that the view of the church is different, and how the people view church was just different, and it just shows kind of some of the cultural differences.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm gonna say something too. The level of those kids taking the message that they hear at vacation Bible school back to their their houses, and even building up the kingdom that way. Maybe parents are curious. Who knows? If a parent is curious about that, and they send their kid to maybe find out more. Maybe they don't want to come to church, and that's the only way that God has entered their life, or has broken through, is through that little vacation Bible school. Those kids going back to their homes. I mean,
Reminds me of when we went to Two Brothers. We went to part of the Living Stones that's based in a northern part of Carpena. And what they do is they just have a gym, and they just once or twice a week they just have open gym. Kids come and have a safe place to play. Parents will come and watch, and then they give a snack to the kids, and then they just share a message. And the parents are there just to watch and supervise the kids. Now the kids are getting the message, and the parents are getting the message because they're there watching their kids. And I remember sitting next to my grandmother, Carol Wright, and she was like, "This is how you start new churches. You bring the community in. Now you already have a base of people who are now curious and want to learn, and then that's how you can start a new church and then expand and grow further out into the community." They have clear strategies, the leaders of the Brazilian teams do, and they are executing them so well.
I guess the last thing I want to ask you guys is, clearly this trip for you guys and event has been pretty life changing for you, but how does this change your perspective on like your calling to life, or just the way you want to live life moving forward? Like, how does that look?
I'm gonna let you answer this one.
so to kind of cap off what we were talking about on our little break, it was refreshing to go to a place where I'm going to put it in quotations, but God is so real. To go to a place where they live by faith, where they live, by the book, where they live by what it means to be a Christian. To come from a place where in most people's lives, they don't want to admit it, but God is something you leave at church on Sunday morning. And you go on and live your life and your week, and do what you want to do. To go to a place where their faith is everything. It's in each and every part of their life and each and every part of their day. And to see their sole purpose as furthering the kingdom is just, it's incredible.
Mhm.
Like to see God moving in such a way like that is just amazing. And it kind of, for me personally, it kind of raises that bar. It showed me, I've never been the person for God is somebody at church on Sunday morning. But to see that you can live, the Christian life, and that it's not a bar that people, society sets too high. That you can live, and share God, and live God in everyday life is amazing. And to maybe even touch people without having to necessarily spread the word or sit down and talk. That walking down the street, people come up to Telly and stuff when we're walking through Recife. Don't even know what you believe, but know that there's something about you, that they want to know more about that. It's kind of changed my outlook as to, that's what I want to be. That's the kind of Christian I want to be. Somebody who can live like that and not be ashamed of that. To just wear your faith, wear your armor of faith, and just further your kingdom in your day-to-day, minute-to-minute life. It's incredible. I think that's that trip.
Well, I've been dodging this answer a little bit already just in this show. and I've been dodging it for the past 6 months. Uh, I've been really blessed to be prayed over by multiple different pastors, a couple different times. Prayed over by some of our renewal missionaries in other countries, in different languages. And over the many times this has happened, kind of started changing what I want career wise, uh, with great hesitancy on my part. Uh, it's just been interesting to go about this and just think like 2 years ago when I started at community college, I was pretty dead set on going to a different Indiana Christian school and just getting a degree in broadcast journalism, maybe going into work for ESPN or something like that, Fox Sports, something like that, covering American football and doing that. And I'd be okay at that. I love American football. I'm fairly knowledgeable about the sport and would love to be able to share the joy it brings to me to others. But ever since I came back from Brazil, just a few things have been highlighted to me of, the gifts I possess are not for me alone and they're not for me to use for my own selfish reasons. It's about using them for what God gave them to me to do. So to be able to travel around with Gary over the last few months since I've come back and share my stories of Brazil at little churches and all that, it's kind of been showing me that maybe I have a call into somewhere maybe in ministry. And so that's one of the big reasons why I chose Indiana Wesleyan over this other school is they have a much stronger ministry program. And the Wesleyan Church aligns a lot more with my beliefs and what I believe that God wants us to do. So I'm not saying I'm being called to be a pastor or anything like that, but just somewhere out in the mission field in some capacity, whether that's being a Christian influencer like that Bible teacher on Instagram or doing a podcast, maybe doing the stuff there's all kinds of great accounts out there doing stuff and maybe just something along those lines. Maybe just being a content creator for a real career.
Awesome. That's really good to hear. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, thank you so much, Ash, for running the cameras on this episode. I'd like to say thank you to Caleb Ream for joining me here. And I'd like to say thank you to you guys for watching this episode and hanging out with us over this last 6 months. This has been a transition in our lives in all different capacities. And we'll see you next time.